Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association. Missouri produces wood pallets, railroad ties, white oak barrels, hardwood floors, and more. Details on the variety of products made in the state are at choosewood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sharon Stevens. In the wide and varied world of entertainment, there are stand-up comedy shows, there are author readings, and then there's the literary reading comedy mashup. That's how the staff of the St. Louis-based literary magazine Boulevard is billing next week's 3 writers and a comedian event at the Schlafly Tap Room. St. Louis-based comedian Tina Dybal and local writers Christopher Candice and Gabe Montesanti each have a part in the celebration, and they join me in the studio. Tina, Chris, Gabe, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Nice to have you. Tina, let's start with you. Most of us probably think of comedy and literary scenes as 2 very different worlds, but you're combining forces to bring it all together next Tuesday. You're going to be the MC, I understand. And we'd like to know, what can attendees expect from the event?
Well, I think that it will be maybe the first time we ever put this together, don't you think?
But not the last.
Yeah, no. I will be doing comedy at some point throughout the night. And other than that, I'll just kind of be MCing and making it go smoothly for the writers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And folks are going to have fun, yes?
Yes, of course. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited.
Great. All right, Chris, as an up-and-coming St. Louis writer yourself, what's it like for you to know award-winning novelist Weike Wang, who's coming to town and sharing the stage with you? And what do you think makes Wang a perfect fit as the headliner for this literary comedy mashup?
Well, Weike, her first novel, Chemistry, was super successful. It won the Penn Hemingway Award, which is awarded to the best debut novel of the year, and also won a Whiting Award, which annually honors 10 writers in fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and drama. And the past winners of the Penn Hemingway have gone on to achieve great success. So you have writers like Colson Whitehead, ZZ Packer, and George Saunders were past recipients of that award. And, Saunders especially is known for being a humorist, but also a serious writer. And I think Weike falls into that category.
Okay, thank you. Gabe, I understand you are currently finishing your first full-length memoir about the phenomenon of roller derby.
Yes.
And that some of your writing recently earned you Boulevard's inaugural prize for nonfiction writing. Mm-hmm. What is it about roller derby that's captured your writing imagination, and how does humor inform your writing?
When I came to St. Louis for my MFA, I had been a competitive athlete my whole life, but I had never skated. But I knew within about 6 months of joining the team that it was something very special that I needed to write about because it was forming my life in so many very pivotal ways. And then obviously we laugh constantly on the track together. People kind of think of it as a dangerous, rough and tumble type sport, but we are each other's biggest support systems, and we do have hilarious names. Everybody picks their own derby name.
What's yours?
Mine's Jonas Spark. Yeah, kind of warping that Catholic childhood I was raised with. But I mean, it's something so special. There was no way not to write about it.
Okay, and is everybody okay with that?
What do you mean? The people on my team? Yeah. They're listening right now, so I hope so.
I bet they let us know. Okay. Tina, back to you. You are officially, based on a competition that was held last year, the funniest person in St. Louis. Now, does that feather in your cap add pressure as a comedian?
I guess a bit, but I think that it's validation when you win it, but then afterwards you're like, okay, on to the next thing. What's next? Like, how do I peel that next layer back and get better as a comedian? So, yeah, I mean, I think sometimes I do get a little stressed out about it, but it's not like every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, got to be the funniest person in the world today,
I mean, are you looking forward to the day that you're doing, say, late night TV?
Yes, of course. And yeah, I mean, it's something I dream of. Every time I get to see another comedian do late night, I'm like, there's that little girl me that's like, okay, I cannot wait to do this. Like, what am I going to wear when I do that? What am I going to eat that day? I don't know.
I can do this.
Yes.
All right. I'd like to know something from all three of you about humor and writing coming together. What's your writing process like for stand-up, Tina, since we're starting with you here, and then you, Chris, and Gabe will just go around?
Sure. So a lot of my writing process goes from me just kind of having something that makes me laugh, and I usually put a note in my phone about it, and then I kind of just start workshopping from there. And it all kind of, I feel like bits always start out really large for me, and then I whittle them down, through the editing process of like, okay, what part of this is funny, and do I need to take out these extra words? How do I make this idea that I'm trying to portray the joke that I want it to be,
Is it still funny after you've read it aloud 50 times?
Yes, of course, but it definitely gets to be where I want it to be. I have to say it the way that, like, I'm saying it for the first time, I can't go on stage and say like a joke that I've done multiple times in this sad, morose way. Yes, you will. Everyone will.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
So one of the things I think about when I'm thinking about the writing process is something that Virginia Woolf wrote in one of her letters, and it's very short. It says that writing is still like heaving bricks over a wall, and that was after she'd already written 3 novels. So I think about that a lot. I think as someone who teaches, I teach at the MFA program at Lindenwood and also writes, I've had trouble balancing those two, and it seems like in recent years I've finally figured out how to balance teaching and writing and just living. And as far as my actual process, mine is very time consuming. So I still write longhand first on yellow legal pads, and I type that up. And sometimes I'll print that out and go back and, write on top of the printouts. And then I might even go back to the writing longhand. And so lots of drafts, lots of revisions. And at a certain point, I can't stand to look at it anymore. And then I send it out to various places. So.
Well, I'm no Chris Candice, but I do that longhand thing too. I have to.
Yeah.
Old habits die hard. Mm-hmm. What about you, Gabe?
Well, I never set out with the intention of writing something funny, and it always kind of comes as a surprise to me when people laugh as I read my work. But I think that I definitely lean toward dark comedy, like gallows humor. My primary goal is always just to write something real, and something that doesn't shy away from taboo subjects or the things that most women, and especially queer women, have kind of been disallowed from writing. I write about my body, which isn't small, my family, of course, and then, seeking a dangerous sport like roller derby, which kind of follows a model that was set for me growing up, but is something that I can reclaim, in my own life as my own self.
What does your family think?
Well, they don't know. They were not very happy when I pursued an MFA, and especially when I told them that I was doing nonfiction. My family, I come from a working class family, so they didn't really know what that meant. They didn't really support me going, onto graduate school. They thought I should be getting a job. But I hope they're proud one day.
Okay. Gabe and Chris, you each have nonfiction work that has appeared in Boulevard and Natural Bridge literary magazines, which have partnered on the 3 writers and a comedian event. So there are a lot of literary magazines. What makes these 2 particularly stand out in your minds?
I think I've been in Natural Bridge twice, and they seem to be very willing to take risk in terms of experimental writing or stylistically innovative writing. and they are very much open to things like creative nonfiction essay that is basically, my essay is basically like an inflated book review of William Gass's novel, The Tunnel, but it goes in all sorts of different directions into personal stuff and philosophical stuff. So that's kind of how I see that journal.
Okay.
And for Boulevard, this marks the 35 years of continuous publication for Boulevard. So it's a big year. The 100th edition just came out, the 100th issue. And even though it was founded in New York, it moved to St. Louis, and it's become such an integral part of the literary community here. It's sold at Left Bank and Subterranean, and the current editor, Jessica Rogan, does such a good job not keeping it just on the page and allows it to sort of permeate into the community in a really lovely way.
Okay, very good. Tina, what do people need to know about Tuesday's event?
Come ready to laugh, maybe cry. I might be the one to make them cry. Yeah, I think that it's going to be a really cool showcase of two sects of art that people don't usually see together, like a stand-up comedian and writers. So I think it'll be a really interesting way to blend two communities that otherwise may have not been blended.
Okay, and what makes you think that people really want to see that kind of a mashup?
Well, I think there's something vulnerable in stand-up and in writing, and it all is something original that we've written. So I think that the vulnerability makes it fun and easy to laugh at and kind of understand,
Okay. One thing that comedians and writers probably all have in common is some sort of rejection, just comes with the territory. Can each of you talk a little bit about how you kind of make it through the less fun stuff that comes with humor and writing?
I'm lucky to have a really strong community of writers, and we make a game of it. One of the things that we were doing this year was to see who could get 100 rejections, and that was
That's a thing?
Oh yeah, and I'm very competitive. I wanted to win the 100 rejections, so it reframes that idea of what failure looks like, and makes the rejections not something to be ashamed of, but as part of the process.
Okay.
Yeah, my students are sometimes afraid to actually start submitting because they're worried about rejection, and I always tell them the worst thing that can happen to you is a form rejection. Where sorry to inform you, we can't take your piece. I've heard maybe one or two times where something nasty has come back, but that's very, very rare. And so, with that, in mind. It's never anything personal. It doesn't necessarily mean that the writing is bad. It just might not be a good fit for wherever you're sending it. And so I also have hundreds of rejections in comparison to acceptances. And at a certain point, it just becomes part of the business, I guess, or the game of trying to get published. There's lots of great writers out there, and there's only so many journals, so many publishers publishing books every year. And so you just, you send out as much good stuff as you can, and you sort of just hope for the best, because once you send it out, that's not in your control. You can only control what your writing is as you're working on it. And, after that, there is a bit of luck involved too. And so I try to remind my students about that. So
it's not like somebody's going to come hunt them down to give them the bad news or something.
No, nobody is banging on my door for my writing yet.
All right. Tina, how about you?
Yeah, I think that a lot of rejection comes with this art. Like, it can be from your family. It can be, especially with stand-up, I get rejection on stage in that moment sometimes if a joke that I'm working on doesn't land, And then there's been countless festivals that I haven't been accepted to. And, but there's a lot of things that I have gotten. And I think it is important to have a group of people that share your struggle as an artist and get to, build each other up. And, so it's really, it can be tough, but if you're not ready to deal with it, then you're kind of, you're out. It's not going to happen.
Good luck to all of you. Thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hope it works out for you. And I think that's all the time we have for today. So we are thanking our guests, Tina Dybal, Christopher Candice, and Gabe Montesanti for joining us. Thanks again for being here.
Thanks.
We appreciate it. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to conservation and careful management of the state's forests to make them more resilient and better habitats for wildlife. ChooseWood.com.